Welcome everyone to ACME Scotland Comic-Con. Can I get a big whoop? Whoop! There, I like to hear it. I hope you've all had a fantastic time so far. I'm your illustrious host for this panel of one, so interview more like. I'm Gary Chudleigh. I'm a writer and editor, and I am privileged to be here with Charlie Adlard. Now, Charlie is the former UK laureate and a cartoonist most known for Walking Dead. Trick question. So, The Walking Dead began in 2003, and it's safe to say it became a major juggernaut. Now, the comic series lasted until 2019 and has spawned a monster hit TV show and video games. It's also, Charlie, spoilers, right? It's also personally my favourite comic series of all time. Just with mouse and powers kind of like just behind it. But so, yeah, so definitely number one. So, thank you, it's a personal pleasure to be here too. So Charlie, you've not done The Walking Dead yet, you're back, you're a young person, you're maybe in school, I'm not sure where your journey began, but when did the journey begin for becoming a cartoonist?
Oh well, I mean there's two different things. There's when did I get interested in comic books and drawing, and when did I start drawing, or how did I start drawing The Walking Dead? I mean, I've drawn comic books since I can remember, literally. One of my biggest memories, or my earliest memories, I was about 6, and my dad coming home one evening with a copy of The Mighty World of Marvel, which was the British reprints of obviously all the Marvel comic books at the time. So that was about, this will show my age, that was about 1972. And I think I drew comics after that, literally, that was the scales falling from my eyes moment. And at the same time also, again, my dad used to go and fill his car up at this specific garage in town, and they were running a promotion, and if you filled your car up enough time, you got a free Asterix book. So, and I pestered my dad enough that I would not let him go and fill his car up at any other garage. So I got
that would be quite expensive nowadays, by the way.
It's quite expensive, yeah, because I got 4 Asterix books out of it. I got the run, these special promotion books, and so little did I realise at the time that I was being fed American comic books from one end and French bande dessinée from the other. So that was kind of my 2 main influences. I drew a bit more because there were no other distractions back in the 70s. And when I was about, I did all the usual things. I go to art college, I studied film and video because there were no comics courses. Came out of that, faffed around for a bit, and eventually decided I better try this comics art for seriously. And I've probably broken the industry in my late 20s, I think, back in 1992, something like that. And I've been drawing comic books professionally ever since.
So, 1992, was that 2000 AD? Was that your first big breakthrough?
Yeah, it was Judge Armitage for 2000 AD. Second series, book 2. Yeah.
Nice one. And so to go from, you were drawn non-stop, you were really thinking, time to take this work seriously, to then go and kind of cut your teeth on 2000 AD, which by that point cemented itself as quite a legendary publication, a massive part of British sci-fi. What was that like in terms of, was that a scary experience, was that a good experience? How did that one work for you?
It was a bit of a baptism of fire because at the time, back in the early 90s, that the trend was to fully paint comic books. It was the time of Dave McKean, the time of Simon Bisley, things like that. And so the first thing I did, which was Judge Armitage, was fully painted, with acrylics and everything. And I hadn't painted comic books before, not professionally anyway. So it was a kind of a real massive learning curve, and I was like learning on the job. So it was a really interesting experience. I always remember, when I used to go to comic conventions and shows before I was a professional, seeing all the people sat behind tables signing for other people. I remember thinking, oh, one day my ambition is to be on the other side of the table. Soon regretted that, of course. But no, of course not. Yeah, I seem to remember my ambitions were quite small back then. I just wanted to be on the other side of the table, signing for people as opposed to asking for comics to be signed. But yeah, I working for 2000 AD, Judge Dredd, and everything like that. It was great. It was a great way of breaking into the industry, and they've been brilliant, brilliant ways to get in. Basically, for any up-and-coming artist and writer, it's a great training ground. And they always say if you can write or draw to that 5-6 page format, you can write and draw anything. There's a definite art to writing the short, snappy story, whether it's multi-part or a single story. Having something with almost a beginning, middle, and end, even if it's continuous every week, is a real sort of art and a real training ground. So yeah, it's taught me a lot.
Especially that future shot format is brutal to try to figure out.
Very brutal.
Like to make a concise story with a twist in 5 pages. 22 pages is easier. 22 pages, any day. 5 pages, man.
Well, I think that's the thing when you're doing. It's very easy if you're into American comic books, just American comic books, to fall into that sort of very languid storytelling pace, where you can easily draw a 22-page book without nothing much happening. And admittedly we did a lot of that in The Walking Dead. But my preference has always been to that sort of condensed storytelling. A lot of it which you would find in sort of French comic books, because they've only got, generally speaking, they've only got 48 pages of 48, 50, 56 pages, whatever, to tell a story in, as opposed to hundreds of pages if you're going into a mini-series. So yeah, it's all interesting, different ways of working. You have to sort of adapt to different formats.
Just before we go into The Walking Dead, out of all the other things you've got come like 2000 AD, etc., what has been the most rewarding, or what one really sticks out in your mind?
That's an easy question. All the creator-owned stuff, which we talk about with Walking Dead as well, obviously. But many years prior to The Walking Dead, myself and the Scottish writer Robbie Morrison, we did a book called White Death, and it was the first creator-owned thing either of us had done, and it had the real commercial potential, because it was a black and white comic book drawn. I drew it in charcoal and chalk on grey paper, and it was set in World War I on the Italian Austro-Hungarian front, halfway up mountains, hence the title White Death. So had tremendous commercial potential, but it's just something we really wanted to do. And it's never made any money. It's been published about three times. We self-published it, and then it was published by a small publisher called AIT Planet Lar, and then it was reprinted again by Image, but never made a single dime out of it. But it's still one of my proudest books, because it was the first time we decided this is it. This is what we. This way of working has potential, rather than just working for the man.
Project. Now on to The Walking Dead. So you took over Tony Moore. It was issue 7.
Yeah,
issue 7. How did you get that gig? How did that come around?
It is the world's most boring story.
There wasn't
nothing.
It's death or a big competition.
No. I used to go to San Diego every year as a sort of hunter, basically. Just trying to, even though I was working professionally, but I saw it as a networking sort of thing every time. And it's anyone that wants to get into comic books, I know it's expensive, but it is kind of worth going, because you'll see all the editors and everything there. So I did that every year, and over the years I just met Robert through mutual friends and things like that, and we exchanged a few pleasantries a few years prior to Walking Dead starting. Talked no more than 5 minutes each time, and then suddenly back in '93, or it was early '94 by the time I started. Got an email out of the blue from Robert just saying, do you fancy working on this small zombie comic book I'm doing? The original artist can't do it anymore, and do you fancy taking over from issue 7? And again, the only reason I sort of said yes, I mean, I did read the script and it was a good script, don't get me wrong, but the main reason I said yes was because I was in between jobs. So, that's something to do.
If you weren't in between, do you think there's a chance you would have said no?
Well, the funny thing was I can't remember the actual timescale, but not that long afterwards I got offered the relaunch of Warlock at Marvel, written by the little-known writer at the time, Greg Pak. And of course, I thought this was going to be my big break. So I actually said to Image, I'll do The Walking Dead for 6 issues, then I'll probably go on to Warlock and I'll carry on and do the big comic book. And Image was so passionate about, and Robert was so passionate about me carrying on, they persuaded me, or tried to persuade me not to come off the book. So I sort of said, oh, right then, I'll try and draw 2 comic books a month. Because I'm quite fast, but not that fast. And I sort of struggled manfully along for about a couple of months, realising that I couldn't draw 2 comic books a month. And I was that close from writing that email back to Image saying, guys, it's not working. I really genuinely, something's got to give, and I've got to go with Warlock. And then they cancelled Warlock. So I was, if there's fate, if fate's a real thing, thank Christ they cancelled Warlock.
So what was your working relationship with Robert Kirkman like?
We absolutely hate each other.
Frenemies?
No, it's been great. I mean, work with somebody for 16 years and not have an affinity with them, not get on with them, no, we found a great way of working together, i.e. we didn't interfere with each other. When you're doing when you're doing a monthly comic book, you're doing 22 pages plus a cover, there's not time. There literally isn't time for too much, criticism, stroke interference. So it would have been interesting to have seen how much more we'd have interfered with each other if we'd have had the time to do it. But no, we had a great working relationship. I mean, the reason I did The Walking Dead for 16 years and saw it right to the bitter end was every script made me want to carry on reading it and carry on wanting more and seeing where the story was going. So it's all power to Robert that I stayed on the book as well.
Was there any point of contention, was there any point that stuck out that was like, oh, there's a slight disagreement, or?
You don't go through working 16 years together without the odd bit of abrasiveness, shall we say. But nothing to stop me ever working on the book and vice versa. There was the odd slight creative disagreement. I mean, I didn't want to draw the Michonne torture sequence, for instance. Ironically, I'm the guy that really believes horror should be off screen not because I'm rude, but because I think it's more scary. The stuff you don't see is much more scary than the stuff you do see. As soon as the monster's revealed, it's kind of, all the power's gone out of it. That's why, I'm going to cite 2 examples, but the reason these monsters were kept off screen was actually technical problems. But, the shark in Jaws is much more scarier off screen than when it appears as this big rubber monster. And it's the same problem they had with Alien. You know, they realised that, oh, Alien looks like a bloke in a skin-tight monster suit with a funny head. You know, when as soon as the camera panned away, so they kept it all in sort of, you know, off screen or just in really quick shots, and it, God, makes it much scarier. So that's what I kind of wanted to do with The Walking Dead. Obviously, I lost that argument. But there again, I realised it's a zombie book, and you've got to, by its very nature, you have to have this sort of stuff. And you've got to show the nasty side of it, because if you don't show that sort of nasty side, the impact of the character, the certain characters that you might love dying, is not as strong.
So I thought it was quite interesting when you were saying issue 7, this kind of small scale zombie book that you got brought on to do. Was there a specific point where you realised like this is like on a model?
No, there was never a moment, because the rise was really gradual. It didn't do that and then carry on and then plateau, you know, carry on like that. It was just this real gradual rise. You know, I'd get Robert would sort of email me almost every month and say, oh, gone up in sales figures again, you know, and you're like, oh, okay, great. And you know, the thing was when eventually we did sell it, yeah, the rights, and yeah, it got made into a TV show. The book was already doing really well. We were making a fairly decent living out of it already. You know, so it was almost kind of a not to belittle it. It was almost a kind of, it didn't feel that important at the time when it became a TV show, because we were doing fine. We were quite happy being a comic book and telling our own story and everything. And you know, we'd already seen how certain, you know, properties have been ruined by, you know, another, you know, kind of someone taking the rights and messing with it, you know. So, you know, we were always a bit wary of that. We definitely wanted to be the people that stood back from the book or from the TV show or related stuff and say, look, that's one thing. Yeah, do the Alan Moore thing and say that's one thing. This is another thing. It's got nothing to do with how good or how bad the thing we're doing together is. You know? So we sort of had that attitude going in, and then same thing happened. I mean, we it's so painful, the Hollywood process, that you know, these things don't happen in the space of 6 months or a year. This was, we'd sold the rights almost, you know, probably 12, 18 issues in, and then they were going to make a TV series, and then all that fell through, and then the rights reverted back to us, and they were bought again. You know, and by this time you're thinking, oh, this thing will never happen. And it's one of those things you just have to put to the back of your mind at the time, to think, yeah, well, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, you know. And all of a sudden, there it was, TV show, and then, well, the rest is history.
So it sounds like that it was still the two separate distinct things, the comic and the TV show. Did you have any involvement with the show? Did you get to visit the set or anything like that?
That was pretty much my involvement. I visited the set a couple of times, that was it. I mean, I was asked if I'd be interested in, you know, doing artwork, designing for the show, things like that, but for me, it just felt like, well, I've already done that. You know, I've already done the book. Why do I need to redo it for something else? So I thought, well, I'd rather do another comic book. If I've got the time to do something for the TV show, personally, I'd rather do another comic book rather than more Walking Dead. Again, another reason why we made it last for so long, for us working on it, was the fact that thankfully I'm fast enough that I could do something in between. And you know, it's the old cliche, but a change is as good as a rest. So yeah, perhaps every 2 or 3 months, I'd manage to catch up. Yeah, I'd manage to do enough that I could take, say, a month off and do something else, another project, and then come back to The Walking Dead for however many months. So it gave me that variety. But I would have rather done that than just say gone to Atlanta and kind of got locked into a room just drawing storyboards or something like that. So yeah, but I have been on set and I was a zombie on the pilot as well.
Is it pirate?
Yeah.
Oh, right, cool. Okay.
Blink, you can't see me. I'm in a crowd. I believe you me. I frame by frame gone through the scenes I was in, and I can't see me. But I just wanted to have the proper makeup on, and I was very lucky because I shouldn't have really had the proper makeup on because I was basically what they called a B-list zombie, the ones further back. But I still got all the prosthetics, all the bits hanging on my face. It was great, and I got to spend about an hour in a nice air-conditioned makeup truck as opposed to the brutal 30-degree weather of Atlanta at the time with 100% humidity. Oh, it wasn't pleasant.
Do you know what? Like, they missed such a good opportunity to have like your brains blown out by like Rick. That would have been so good to watch. Nothing personal against you, Charlie, but it would have been good.
It would have been there's a lot of people, because at the time I used to have long hair, believe it or not. I used to have hair, not just long hair, but at the time, and I think a lot of people, there was a significant zombie in the first few episodes that kept popping up. And a lot of people actually do mistake that guy for me because he had basically similar hair. He looked more like Nick Cave, but there you go, figure. But I don't really like Nick Cave, I don't think so. Anyway.
So there's often the debate of what's better, the adaptation or the original. I'm not going to ask you.
That's a silly question. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
And I think everyone knows the same. Comic is better.
But better. Of course it is. It's original source material. Of course it's better.
But is there any moments or specific storylines that you felt the show, they've done that a wee bit better?
The only thing they did better was the logo. Their logo is really good. I always felt that and don't worry, there's no spoiler. Robert knows this, Image knows it. I hate the original logo to The Walking Dead. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
It looks slightly joyful. You know what I mean? It is sort of the quirky lettering and the sort of the wonky lettering. I was thinking that does not sum up the zombie apocalypse to me. Whereas The Walking Dead TV show, their logo did sum up the zombie apocalypse to me. It's a much better design logo, I think. I just felt like the logo for the comic looked like it'd been designed within 2 minutes. Someone just gone, oh, that'll do. And perhaps that was the attitude to it back then. It was, who knew this thing was going to get massive? Perhaps they should have put a bit more effort into, the design of the book, knowing what was going to happen, 6-7 years down the line. But hey ho.
Is there any part of the show that you felt that a scene or a character felt like real bad injustice?
Alright, well I'll let you into a little secret for starters. I can only comment on the first 4 seasons because I genuinely have not seen any more of that. Only because, no criticism of the show, but it's basically, when I watched the first few seasons, it just literally felt like homework for me. It felt like I should be watching it as opposed to really wanting to watch it. It felt like I should turn up at events at the time and be able to talk to the fans about the show and have a knowledge of the show. So I felt like I really have to watch this thing. And, it's a long time since I've been to school, and it felt like I was at school. So it's not the best attitude you have to watching something like that. So I think I got to season 4 and just thought, look, this is no criticism of the show. I thought the show's fine, it's good. But for me personally, and of course I knew where it's all going. I knew what was going to happen to everybody. It's like no spoilers for me. So yeah, I just kind of stopped watching it. And then my eldest son started watching it. And I thought, oh all right then, great, we can have a bit of a father-son bonding sort of thing over watching The Walking Dead together. But he gave up after season 4, so it's like I didn't even watch it with him. So I mean, the stuff I'd seen, it was really good. I mean, I did think there's certain things where it did falter. I think they really did sort of spend way too long in Herschel's farm in season 2. That was an odd season, and I'm quite surprised it survived, you know, to go into season 3 afterwards, because it really slowed the pace down quite terribly. But then it obviously picked up, and I did obviously see stuff with the governor, which was perfectly fine, even though obviously his name, the actor, obviously David Morrissey, thank you very much. Even though he didn't look anything like the governor, and everyone expected him to turn up on set with long hair and a moustache, and then he turned up on set with short hair and no moustache, and everyone just sort of went, oh well, better carry on like this then. And therefore the governor, that was the image of the governor. Well, I thought he played the role really well. Everything about it, because I went back on the set for season 3. So, and it was great. It was nice to sort of meet the Nightmare who plays obviously Michonne. And she'd only been playing it for about a couple of weeks, so she was really fresh-faced at the time. And that was an incredible experience to literally stand in front of Michonne looking almost like what she does at the comic book. And I really had to struggle not to say, I designed you. You're what I drew. You're right in front of me. That was a really good memory. That's amazing.
And for me, for one project, can have its ups and its downs. So, you know, like Mark Hamill, he's forever going to be the Star Wars guy. You're going to be very associated with The Walking Dead. It's been 16 years of your life, 187 issues.
Oh, I know.
How do you feel about it now?
When I finished The Walking Dead, I had two messages straight away, one from Marvel, one from DC, both asking me to do bloody zombie-related stuff. And I turned them both down. I was like, no, not interested. Because, you know, the last thing I want to do now is zombies, to be honest. Done enough of those. And even the horror, it has to be really good for me to want to do it, because, you know, again, associated with horror. Look, at the end of the day, The Walking Dead has done me brilliantly. The pros far outweigh the cons. I might be, for the rest of my life, typecast as the zombie guy. Ironically, I'm not even that into zombies. I mean, they're fine, don't get me wrong, I don't hate zombies, but when they were doing The Walking Dead, the zombies were not the reason I did The Walking Dead. I did The Walking Dead because I thought it was a really good character book. It was the characters that attracted me, not the gore, not the zombies, not any of that. So I find it quite funny that people come to me and sort of as the zombie expert, and I'm thinking, I'm no zombie expert. I've just drawn the odd. I drew them, but they're all sort of, that's just me with a pen just going, mess, lots of mess, you know. And that's it. So, but what the positive side of it is it's enabled me to pick and choose my projects since leaving The Walking Dead. And I'm in a really, really lucky position. I can pick and choose projects that might not necessarily have a decent page rate, or might not even make any money back end. I can just choose projects because I want to do them. I think that is the main thing that has come out of finishing The Walking Dead, is I've got the freedom to do that. I've got the freedom to work with who I want to work with. I've got the freedom to, whether it's working for something for a major publisher or the smallest publisher, it doesn't matter. I just want to do what's good, and I want to do stuff I want to see out there. So yeah, I've been working on some rather very uncommercial projects of late.
Excellent. So, when you write about the Walking Dead, when it's not the zombies, it's the characters and the storytelling, especially because zombies can be quite stale. We have post-romantic as well.
Well, they are the most boring monsters because they've got no personality. They don't do much, So yeah, you need characters in a book like this.
If you had to sum up the legacy of The Walking Dead, how many years ago, or how many years from now, what's going to be its legacy, its history? What people think in 20, 30 years? How would you sum it up?
I think we got to achieve our vision, so to speak. Yeah, we got the luxury of, because of the success, we got the luxury to take it to the point where we could dictate that the book was going to finish. So Robert got to do his big zombie story, which is what he always wanted to do, without any worries of the thing, sort of not selling, and therefore will I be able to finish the book. I got my dream of, at the time, I always wanted to do a regular series because I knew I was fast enough, so I knew I could do that, and I'm pretty good at efficiency and things like that, almost a slight point of OCD. But oh god, the legacy of The Walking Dead. It is weird because it has become part of the language, especially in genre, especially in genre sort of tropes, things like that. I quite often hear, not necessarily genre programs, people just utter the words, it's like The Walking Dead, and I'll sit there if I'm watching the TV and they say that in some, soap opera or something like that. You just go, whoa, we're sort of part of a national language now. People know what it is enough that they can just say it in outside. That's right. That's what the way I'm fumbling around this subject matter. No, I will now focus. It's become part of the language out of the genre. Which I think is quite something else when that is mentioned in, like, say, a soap opera or something like that, or in just general conversation. Someone will bring it up, and you just think, I did that.
That's brilliant, thank you. I'll now open up the floor to questions. If anyone want to ask Charlie a question. Any questions? Yourself to grab mics for the audience.
Someone be brave. Once someone does it, the dominoes fall.
Oh, we've got the first volunteer.
No, you're just scratching your head.
Oh yeah, alright, okay. Microphone's just coming to you.
Oh, there he is. Take your time.
Where are we going?
Run faster. Over there.
Hello. I'm actually quite shocked to find out that you've only watched the first 4 seasons, because I'm only on season 8, so spoiler free.
You've seen 4 more seasons than I have.
And what I can tell you, season 7 and 8, anyway, I'm looking forward to season 9. What I wanted to ask was Negan, my absolute favourite character, absolutely adore him, just fantastic. I wanted to ask, where did the creation for him come from? When you were writing the comics and developing it and drawing it, where did it just sort of click in your mind that you wanted to do a character like that? That's my question.
Negan was, he's my, I think him and Michonne are my 2 favourite characters as well. And I love Negan because of what we did with him, more than, if he had just stayed the sort of the mega villain that he was at the beginning, he wouldn't have been that interesting. But we virtually turned him into a kind of an anti-hero by the time the book finished. And the creation was quite interesting actually, because when we were doing his introduction, we had, you probably know, we had 6 covers with the Saviours on, like just their torsos. And we hadn't decided on what Negan was going to look like by that time. So I just drew from Robert's vague descriptions, like draw one guy with, you know, a machine gun, draw one guy with a machete, draw one guy with a baseball bat with barbed wire around them, you know, and all that sort of stuff. So I did all 6. And then Robert sort of emailed me and said, I think we'll go for the one with the barbed wire in the back, you know, as Negan. So it was like, oh, okay, right. And funny enough, we did very, very briefly go into discussion about perhaps we should make Negan female, because we'd already had a male protagonist in the Governor and everything. But Robert seemed quite focused on the fact he wanted him to be male and have a certain look. So I ran with that certain look, and we created, you know, this kind of slick back, you know, iconic. I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this, but hey ho, who cares now? It's a long time ago. I used the rock star slightly, he's acted in a bit of things, Henry Rollins as my template for Negan at the time. And what Robert used to do actually when he was describing a character to me, he would tend to say, rather than go into lots of descriptions on what the face might look like, he'll just say, he just looks like X. Like, you know, from Google that face, you know, so there's some famous person, whether it's film, TV, pop star, whatever. So Robert also locked into the Rollins thing. So yeah, that was kind of what he looked like, or what he always sort of was based on to begin with. But obviously a bit taller, because Henry Rollins is not tall. So, but yeah, I loved him from the beginning, and I loved him even more by the end of it. I mean, and well, another interesting point was Robert, believe it or not, was going to kill Negan at the end of the book. The bit where Maggie's got the gun to his head, she was going to shoot him, and that would be the end of Negan. And I emailed, not that I wanted him to change it because it was a nice ending, but I emailed Robert back and said, wouldn't it be interesting, just hypothetically, you know, and I was almost just chatting, I didn't expect that, I was phrasing it in a way I didn't want him to change it, but yeah, this is an alternative sort of future. I said, well, wouldn't it be interesting if Negan survives? Because all the time in stories, you know, it seems like the villain always has a death sentence. And we don't we don't have the death sentence in this, they do in America, I know, but we don't have the death sentence over here. So why is every single villain condemned basically to death? I say, wouldn't it be good to give him some sort of, way out? And he carries on his journey of redemption or whatever. Give him some sort of redemption, and then literally within 12 hours, because of the time difference, Robert had written back on, you bastards, I've got to rewrite this stuff. That's a much better idea. So yeah, he doesn't get killed, and he goes on this. He'd already sort of half been redeemed anyway, but the idea was to carry on redeeming him, just to show that, you know, villains can come back from the brink. You can turn the nastiest person. I mean, he was the most hated guy in comics at one point. You could turn that around to being actually a guy that people sort of love. And I think, to be honest, I think out of so much of the Walking Dead stuff that we've done over those 60 years, I think that was probably our greatest achievement, was to turn Negan into this kind of guy you kind of love, you kind of like, you know, he's a nice guy. And when we did, you know, He Is Negan, I just thought it was a mark of genius, just telling that story of, you know, Negan's background and how, how anyone basically could become somebody like him. It was just through circumstances and things like that he becomes the nastiest guy. And I think, yes, it's worth showing him as a nice guy at the beginning, becoming the villain, and then finally finding redemption and becoming out of it at the end. nice guy, but as certainly a more decent human being than what you originally thought. So that's Negan, folks.
That's 5 minutes. Is there any last questions? That's your middle
Making it work over there.
Hello. Working with Robert, what was it like both doing your own careers, your crafts, and actually having that collaboration together and working with one another and playing off each other's strengths and getting to the final product?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, you don't work with somebody for 16 years and not. You have to get on, obviously. No, Robert is my kind of writer because I don't really want reams and reams of description in a script. I don't want that. I don't want somebody. Basically, I don't want somebody telling me how to do my job. And so Robert just hit that kind of sweet spot of giving me enough, because obviously I need something to go on, not just dialogue. It was enough description for me to feel like I'm creating the imagery without him almost dictating every little minutiae as well. So, I mean, Robert's quite famous, and I'm thinking if I talk to other artists that work with him, I think we all would say the same thing, that he's quite famous for when he does panel size descriptions, he literally has 4 descriptions of panels. It's either wide panel, small panel, big panel, splash, and that's it. But it's great because then you can create your own page. You haven't got a writer going, oh, can I have a panel this size? And then we've got an insert panel going on here, and we do this and we do that. And you're thinking, that's too much detail. I don't feel creative anymore. I feel like I'm being forced into this sort of corner to draw comics. A really good example, sorry to slightly go off piste a bit, but for a brief period, way back in the mid to late 90s, I worked with the writer Keith Giffen, who was an artist as well. And Keith used to write his scripts, but at the side of every script, he'd draw a little page of thumbnails as well. And it was really annoying. It was great, and I could see he was obviously trying to help, but at the same time, you're going, no, I don't want that because I want to create my own page, and if you're making me look at that and making me think that that's the way you want it, am I changing it just for the sake of changing it, or am I changing it for the better? So that's the kind of the weird mental games you're playing with yourself in something like that. So with Robert, there was no problem with that, and because his scripts were so streamlined, it just sped the process up. Like I say, at the end of the day, you've got to do 22 pages per month. You've got to do that. You've got to do this. There's no time to faff around or anything like that. So Robert literally send me the script. I would very rarely make a comment on it. I'd draw it, and Robert wouldn't see it until I'd finished the pages. So there wasn't really time to send pencils or anything like that. I'd literally he'd see the finished pages, and perhaps 10 times in the whole time we worked together, he might have asked for change, but it was just logistics more than something he didn't like. So I'd say it's as close to a perfect working relationship that we formulated over the years, and because we got so used to each other, his strips got more and more minimal as they went on, because I just didn't need them, and it was great.
Thank you so much for your question. That's a wrap, everyone. Can I get a big thanks to Charlie Adlard? Oh, incidentally, my new comic book, got a new product. It's coming out next month. It's called Damn Them All, and it's by
myself and Cy Spurrier, and it's by Boom Studios. I think it's out late October, so actually if anyone's interested, I've got it on my iPad as a PDF, first issue, but yeah, it's going to be really cool. So the mini-series, probably if it's successful, it will be another mini-series further down the line as well.
So that's great news. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Have a great Comic-Con.